I'm calling from Lebanon. It's a small country. I don't know if you know it is, but it's a small country.
I'm aware of it.
Oh, okay, cool. That's nice. I'm also, so I have a few questions.
Okay.
So a few days ago, I learned about atheism. Am I saying it right? I'm sorry, my English is it's not the best.
Okay.
So I'm sorry if I say things that are wrong. But I learned about atheism a few days ago, and I'm shocked, to be honest.
Okay.
Not in a bad way, but in a very surprised way about the existence of people who don't believe. It's very shocking to me. And I found out about this after I'd fully read the Quran for the first time. And I realized that there was a lot of things that are maybe not the most nice and not the most, moral inside of the Quran. I don't, astaghfirullah, I don't mean to say that, but in the way that it's very violent in some places. And it got me thinking, why do you not believe? What is your proof that there is no? That is what I need to understand. There is no God. Why do you think so?
We're back to the first call topic again. So you're surprised to learn that atheism is a thing. I mean, I'm sure you're well aware that Christianity is the dominant religion in the United States, right?
Yes. The thing is, how I grew up, I was very, very sheltered to these things. I only found out about Christians in the 5th grade, and this is the first time I hear about atheism. This is just, it blows my mind, really. It really does. I didn't know this stuff.
Did you have access to the internet back then? I don't know how old a guy you are.
I'm 16.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, but I do have access. It's just not something I ever researched or considered, or it never entered my mind, because ever since I was a kid, I was just raised this way. So it surprises me. But my first question was, because I have a list of questions I wrote down, and my first question was, what is your proof that there is no? You know what I mean? What is your proof that there is no?
I guess you probably didn't hear our first caller where we talked about that a lot, but I think you are maybe asking this from the wrong point of view, because Muslims don't believe that Jesus was the Son of God or got crucified and resurrected. Is that right?
Yes.
So,
yes.
If a Christian asked you, what is your proof that you're right about Jesus, that isn't necessarily a question that you'd need to answer. It would. I mean, I'm expecting that your reaction would just basically be, well, that makes no sense. There's no reason to believe in this resurrection business. It's all something the Christians made up.
Okay, but how does that? I don't understand how that answers the question. I'm saying, what is the proof that you think that there is no God? What is your proof as an atheist?
Well, so if I could speak towards what Russell was saying, he was trying to give an example of something where you and I agree on our perspective. That you and I agree on the perspective that Jesus Christ was not crucified and did not resurrect. And then we were trying to say something like that same emotion, that same thought and approach, we apply towards other things too.
Yeah, I was trying to make an analogy by saying you don't just automatically accept anything anybody tells you as definitely true. And so, and the more unlikely or outlandish, like Jesus being resurrected, the less likely you are to just accept it and look for proof to believe in those things. You don't necessarily say, okay, I'm going to believe everything everybody tells me until I can prove that it's not true. Because then you'd have to believe in, ancient aliens and unicorns and the Wizard of Oz and whatever other mythology. And I think that the answer is you kind of have a filter of not accepting things until they have positive proof for them.
So what you're saying is that I have to prove something before. Okay, wait, that makes sense. So I have to prove something before you can accept it. But then, so what about like in here where I'm from, we use the word faith is equivalent to like amin. So like, So where does like the idea of faith and stuff like that play here?
I don't think.
Believe,
right.
Yeah.
I don't think that faith is a useful concept. I mean, I understand that in very religious cultures, like heavily Muslim societies or very Christian parts of the United States, that people just say, well, it's a good thing to believe something, even if you have no reason to believe it, because that proves that you're a good and open-minded person. But I actually start from the opposite point of view and say, I think you should only believe things that make sense and have valid support behind them. And that's why I come to atheism, because I don't think that any of the reasons people give for believing in the Quran or the Bible make sense. And I mean, I've been I've been talking to people for many, many years, and I'm not convinced is the main answer.
So let's say that one day there is some sort of evidence. Would you accept the idea?
Yeah. I mean, depending on how good the evidence is.
Let's say you are the evidence was very convincing, like scientific evidence. Would you accept the idea based on the evidence?
Again, it depends, but hypothetically in this case, yes.
Okay, so what you're saying is, if I understood correctly, I'm sorry, but my English is not the best, but is that you have not found enough evidence to believe in Allah or Jesus or these types of things, correct?
That's what it comes down to, yeah.
Yep. But we would if we did.
But like, okay, so then why, you said you don't use faith, but don't you use faith, for example, when you trust a friend with something, or when you give a secret to someone and you assume they're not going to say it to anyone else? Don't you use faith then? Those type of things.
Here's the thing. So, that is a certain amount of trust, yeah, and you don't always have complete information about that person's reliability. As a matter of fact, sometimes you tell something to somebody and ask them not to tell other people, and you're wrong. So it is, but the results of being wrong are not necessarily catastrophic in that case, and so it's not really a big deal. Like, trusting somebody with a secret is low stakes, and nobody knows everything. Nobody has a perfect amount of information. We're just trying to reach the best conclusion about the world, given the things that we do know.
Okay, man, you are making a lot of sense, honestly. Okay, so two more points, and I'm sorry, but
okay.
I don't want to take too much of your time. But
no, we love this call.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it.
What you're saying is making sense. Like, for example, when you said about the faith and all the not using faith, like when someone goes to court, they don't use faith. Like, they need evidence to prove someone is a murderer or something like that, So I see where you're coming from. Like, evidence is important and stuff like that. But when I was talking to someone about the existence, and very recently, when I found out about this stuff, I was talking to my mother actually, and she told me that the universe is so, everything in the world is so complex, it's so complicated that there is no way, it could have been anything but God. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Well, you're doing a great job. Sure.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to check. I don't want to step on you. Yeah. So, lack of knowledge is one of the.
Elaborate just for 1 second.
Okay.
She told me about this. She heard about she told me if she found a watch on somewhere.
The watchmaker argument.
Yeah,
that was.
I googled it. It's something
right.
teleological, something along those lines. Yeah, so I heard about it, but it seemed pretty convincing, the fact that if you had a watch complicated enough, you'd assume it was, there was some sort of perfect being that designed it. And same thing here. Yeah,
So,
same thing
well,
with the universe.
You're going with the complexity argument that the more complex something is, the more likely it is to have a creator. But here's the problem with that.
Ironically, it's a Christian argument.
Well, yes. I mean, I didn't want to.
Yeah.
I mean,
Go on.
but
You do your thing.
No, yeah. I mean, that was invented by a Christian bishop or something named William Paley. So, I mean, we're familiar with this stuff because a lot of these talking points tend to come up over and over again when we do this show. But here's the problem with what you're saying. If a God existed who is smart, powerful enough and smart enough to create everything else in the universe, wouldn't that God be pretty complex himself?
Yes, I guess so.
So by the same argument, wouldn't there have to be like a super God that created the God? Because, I mean, if there has to be a designer for everything complicated, then there even more has to be a designer for a God.
Yeah, but usually, okay, so when I was younger, I used to go to these, like the equivalent of Sunday schools for these type of things, for Islam, essentially. I used to ask these type of questions, like who created God? But most of the time, they just say, God created himself. Why isn't that like, I don't know, it seems like it would work if God created himself. I mean, I don't know.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch that. What was the answer?
The answer was, they just say God created himself. And the answer isn't ever like,
you know that's not an answer, though.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, see, that's where I always wondered. That's the thing. I always wondered these types of things. But I don't know. It's just, it's very weird for me.
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
I'm trying to understand it.
It's that kind of answer that makes a lot of us atheists feel justified in withholding belief, because if you poke at these supposed answers to all the questions in the universe, if you start with, okay, God exists, now what are the implications of that, and you start like turning over the implications and asking more questions, it doesn't take very long at all for religious figures, the kinds of people who are supposed to be the experts on this, to say, oh, that's a bad question, we don't talk about that, or no, it makes sense, he created himself. Like, when you ask where did the whole world come from, and somebody says God created it all, that feels like it's an answer to the question, but it's really just punting the problem down the road, because you quickly see that when you answer that and then you try to ask, well, where did the God come from, the answers you're given seem like cop-outs to me.
Mm-hmm. So they're like avoiding the question more than actually answering it.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
Is that what you?
And
yeah, okay.
One of the things that
I'm taking notes while you guys are talking, because I want to, not forget these type of things. So when it comes to like the complex thing, so you're saying that since God is more complex, then something has to have created God. And I wrote that down. Is that what you mean?
Yeah. Now, I don't know how strict your family is or your religious sect is, but I just want to make sure you don't get into trouble asking these kind of questions.
No, see, yeah, in Lebanon, it's not that strict. Like I know in like Saudi Arabia and stuff like that, they kill people for not believing and stuff. But here it's pretty calm. It's pretty like okay. So it's normal for people not to.
Well,
not
yeah,
to believe, but
you were shocked. You said that you were
yeah,
shocked about it, so
Yeah, you've made it 16 years without hearing that this is even a concept. So, so I just want to make sure you're careful when you bring it up to other people. Like I'm not saying that anything bad will happen to you, but I'm saying just be aware and think about it.
Yeah, the thing is, my name is not actually Ali. I have a different name. I'm using an anonymous name just because I don't want to be caught by my family or by, that type of.
That's fine. We don't want to get you in trouble.
Yeah, I don't want to be in trouble.
Thank you for being honest about your reasoning, about your reason for.
I'm just trying to understand how other people think. It's fascinating. I don't mind being wrong and stuff like that, but I want to understand how people think and stuff. Can I ask one question? The final question. This is it. I'm sorry if I took a lot of your time.
Sure. No, not at all. I'm happy to take your call.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So I'm thinking if you have a person who doesn't believe, that means they also obviously they don't believe in the God, and at the same time they don't believe in the devil and stuff like that, in the shaitan.
Sorry, what was that last thing?
You also don't believe in the God, the devil, but you also don't believe in the afterlife. Can I assume that is correct?
That's true for us. Yeah.
Yeah. I wish that. I really wish there was an afterlife.
Yeah,
but wishing for things doesn't make them true.
Yeah.
That is true. Yes, I wish a lot of things. But essentially, what I want to say is that what happens after that? Then that's my How do you deal with that? So what happens after? I don't understand.
Well, do you believe that animals have an afterlife? I don't know what the Muslim position is on that.
I don't know. I really don't know. I can't answer that question.
Okay. Do you have any pets?
I have a cat, yes.
So a lot of religions have no problem believing that cats don't go to heaven or hell because they don't have a soul and they just stop existing when they die, which is a hard thing to think about if you personalize it. But there are a lot of things that you're probably familiar with where they do some sort of process while they work, and then when they stop working, when they break down or they die or something, they just don't work anymore. And that is really difficult for people to get their mind around, because I've never I've never been aware of not existing.
Yeah, you have.
What?
Every night when you go to sleep.
Yes, every night when I go to sleep, I die.
A little bit.
But at least when I sleep, there's a chance that I have dreams. But as far as I know, when the brain stops working, you don't continue the process of wondering what happens to you next.
Okay, so essentially, I feel like you are sugarcoating it, but essentially there's nothing.
Basically,
it's like before you were born.
Yeah, and I want to hedge this by saying, nobody knows for sure, but as far as we know, nothing happens after you die.
And what about the people that, they die, and then for a few minutes they come back and they talk about, a lot of things. They talk about how they saw, the Nabi Muhammad, and they saw Allah.
Lynnea knows all about that. He's talking about, near-death experiences, I think.
Near-death experiences. Well, when you're in that kind of situation where your brain's not functioning all that well, it's not functioning all that well, and you can kind of it is. I brought up earlier to Russell that it's that death is kind of like sleep, and in that way, it is actually again like sleep in that your brain kind of dreams and it tries to figure out what is going on while it's in the process of shutting down, and it kind of dreams before it turns off all the way, and that's not an exciting thing. If I could make maybe an analogy towards something a little less exciting, where the brain stops functioning in a different way, if you could imagine. Someone maybe getting an injury to part and maybe losing part of their brain, the part of the brain that maybe controls body movement or something like that. You wouldn't say that person's soul has lost the ability to move their body. You would just say, their brain is damaged and they can't move their body anymore because that part of the brain stopped functioning. And if you just extend that out to all of the parts of your brain, the part of your brain that interprets speech, the part of your brain that sees visually, the part of your brain that hears, the part of your brain that interprets what's going on. All of those parts are just being damaged or falling apart slowly.
So, but is it science, or are you do you think this is what happens? Like, do you know this is, like you said, you said when somebody, when somebody's like near death, is that what you said, that their brain like isn't really aware of what is happening? Like, is that scientific, or did you just like think, is that what's happening?
Yeah, well, psychology is not an exact or perfect science, but there are a lot of things that people can do to analyze and measure your brain activity. And, if you, you are getting towards the age where you could potentially go into a university and take classes on things like psychology and neuroscience, depending on what's available where you live. And I think what you'll find is that a lot of the study of how the brain works involves finding out which parts of the brain are firing as people are thinking or doing certain things. And there's a lot of research that's been done on the topic. You can read about it even if you don't take classes on it. And I think what you'll find as you get into the subject is that your brain directly causes the signals to your body that make you move around and do stuff and make you conscious. And when parts of the brain die off, the corresponding ability to do something with your body shuts down also, which is why people get paralyzed, people go into comas.
That's what I was talking about.
Yeah.
I want to go back and say that I think that the question you asked is a good question. Mm-hmm. How do we know that that's what the brain is doing? How do we know that it's not actually actually experiencing those things? So I'm going to pose a question for you. Can you think of some sort of experiment or question that we could ask that could determine the difference?
Wow. I don't know, honestly. No, I couldn't answer it.
I think that is one of the most important questions to ask yourself whenever you have a question like that is to ask, okay, so there's this thing I don't know. What kind of test could I do to tell the difference between whether it's true or not? And then the next question you should maybe ask is, has anybody already tried this? Let me look it up.
Yeah. And I was cheating when I asked, because one of the things that people have studied with this is, what do these experiences look like? Because if this was a true thing where, we go to an afterlife after we die, we would expect them to be consistent all across the world. And it turns out that those experiences are not necessarily consistent. They tend to reflect what the person's religious belief is.
See, that's what I was thinking, is that, when I hear a Christian has a near-death experience, they see, Jesus. But when a Muslim has a near-death experience, they see Allah. And then when a Buddhist, you see what I'm saying. So I don't know, it's just what I was thinking. But
and that's pretty weird, right? Wouldn't you think that there would be at least some Christians who said, "Oh, I saw Allah. I'm changing my mind over that."
Yeah, doesn't happen.
Yeah, I think.
And there's always a white Jesus.
I think, to be honest, when people talk about that, I'm sorry for my language, but it is bullshit. It is not real. They're making
by all means, swear away.
Yes, but essentially, I just think I'm scared that, a lot of the things that people have told me and people have, explained to me in my life is, not true, you know what I mean? Because I grew up very sheltered in this type of thing, so I'm just afraid that a lot of what I've been taught is like not true and stuff. So that's essentially why I called, and that's why I'm asking these questions.
Yeah, hey, Ali, I hate to say it, but we have a time limit on this show, and we have hit it.
I was about to thank you.
But do not apologize for taking up our time, because I hope you call back and talk to us some more another week.
Everyone's clapping for you.
To call next week with more questions. So
all right.
Of course. We're
on every Sunday.
Yeah,
you can email us too.
Call back with it for sure.
Thank you for your time, and thank you for opening my eyes.
See ya.
Oh, thank you. Bye.
That was very sweet.
Yeah, that was some good conversation. A lot of people sorting through stuff today. A lot of different things getting sorted through.
I like when that happens.